We got a really, really good question yesterday in the Foundations group from one of the people who started the practice a month and a half ago. And that is, what are the characteristics and the behaviors of the people who you see building a life practice, long-term sustainability of just being yoga practitioners? And what are the habits and the behaviors of the people who tend to burn out or for some reason come up against obstacles after the honeymoon period that is so inevitable? I love that question, and it really gave me an opportunity to reflect and realize something kind of amazing, and that is that there's actually one really clear predictor from what I have seen for 2 decades so far for the people who have the mindset and the habits for life, and that is that they step into their practice and it's like a trapdoor opens on their mat and they are in that world. There's like a habit of mind that is entrained, but also maybe, some of us have just found our thing. Ashtanga is not everybody's thing. But the people who are the lifers, that is a quality that I see against all of the other diversity, because there's so many factors and so many different kinds of individuals and situations where a life practice really serves. But that quality of the world of their practice being something that opens to them, something that they surrender to and enter, and it's a particular state of consciousness that is theirs, a whole world that is sort of unto them when they move into their practice, is something. Sometimes I'll see it even when they come to observe, and it's actually part of what I'm looking for. Is this a match for you? You don't want to kind of force somebody into like the Procrustean bed of this practice if it's not a good match. And it really can create a sort of, subtle and, being level, like, dis-ease if it's not for a person. And on the other hand, sometimes people see it and they're like, oh yeah, like this will work for me. This is a place that I can find a part of myself, a world of consciousness that is right for me. And I think it's different for a lot of people, but you can still see the attitude, the opening. And it does mean surrendering the thinking mind. It really does. And that does take practice. It's not just a given, it's not necessarily free, but it at least does also entail that willingness to let go of the thinking mind as a habit. That will serve you for years and decades and a lifetime. And the complement of that is the predictor of a fast and bitter end to the honeymoon period. I think the honeymoon is probably inevitable for most people, but it can also be fairly permanent, speaking from experience. The bitter ends to the honeymoons, the divorces from the practice that need to happen, but one can see coming from years away, are in the case where there's a certain kind of goal-oriented activity that's really like the direct opposite of yoga, where you really surrender the fruits of the practice, right? And any delusion, fruit of that one thinks that one's going to get, the asana, like practicing to get the asana, or practicing because you want a certain body, or because you want to finally get to a certain scene, or predicting that you'll meet the perfect teacher, or have the perfect mind inside. Any of that desire to have a certain look, the desire to have a certain sense of self, all of it will disappoint. Every single one of those goals will ultimately show itself to be completely disappointing. Like, not worth your effort. The perfect scene will turn out to be such a disappointment and not cool at all. The body that one thinks one wants is actually not what one expected, and will, all of these fruits will just turn to ashes in your hands. And then that will suck, and one will feel cheated. We know that from the beginning. We know that there's a deep teaching on equanimity, that the practice is the surrender of any sense of entitlement or attachment to any fruits or results of the actions. And at the same time, if we have a habit of trying to motivate ourselves to do things because we're going to get things, that may get you through the honeymoon. But in the end, there will just be a need for a new practice and a new thing at whatever sort of rate, the goal replacement rate, the mind is used to. There's really nothing outside of today's practice. Like, today's practice, if it is intrinsically rewarding, if it is intrinsically a state of yoga for you, that's what's sustainable. And the irony is that, there are like all these collateral things that happen in the mind and the body and the life as a result, but that's not the reasons to stay with it. It's intrinsically, like, in and of itself, in the moment itself, brings you the reward.